I'm doing this low tech. I just felt like this would be a great opportunity to talk a little bit about the challenges that Western Governors University has had in trying to use OER, and some of the ideas and solutions that we found. You know, the title. Okay, I'm just gonna put out a little disclaimer on the title. So you have to put these things out like 6 months out. And I was pretty optimistic. I thought that I was about 9 months into this new job at WGU, so I'm director of instructional design at Western Governors University, and I saw some neat opportunities. I saw huge cost savings, and so that was my initial pitch. Was I went to our provost and our associate provosts, and I said, I've been doing this OER thing for a long time, and there's some great OER now, OpenStax, and there's some professional grade OER, and just some really neat opportunities, and we could save a lot of money. And the answer that came back was, yeah, well, what else you got? And I said, I don't think you heard me. We can save a lot of money here. I mean, I think we can save millions of dollars. If I'm, as I was costing it out, I saw that we had a lot of fairly pricey resources in our gen ed curriculum and other areas, and we're building over 100 courses between now and August. And I just felt like, wow, we can. I think we can really realize some savings. What I didn't anticipate was the fact that we at Western Governors University, our focus is really our curriculum is delivered directly to the student, and our faculty are more of a support who are ready and helpful to the students, but the learning that happens really is the student directly with the resources. And then if there are questions, if there are things that need to be clarified, then that's where the faculty come in. So it's a mentor model. So the most important thing to us right now is the idea of creating courses that are more personalized, creating courses that respond to the needs of the student. So courseware with knowledge checks, and if I miss these questions, if I can't answer these knowledge checks, then it puts me into a remediation loop, something that responds to my needs as a student, rather than here, everyone goes down the same path. That was the opportunity, and much different opportunity than just saving money. So I went back to the drawing board and I said, okay, there's all this great OER, and I talked to David Wiley and some other folks about, gosh, what can we do? I still feel like we can do something here, but my pitch to take flat commercial content and replace it with essentially flat OER, it wasn't. That didn't sell. I couldn't get that one through, and so talking with Lumen and others, what I realized is we're on the cusp of some really interesting adaptive tools, and yet we have a challenge, which is, and we've already learned through some other experiences, that we don't want to pay for the course twice. We don't. If we're going to take some learning materials, learning resources, and do something with those, the risk is that we paid for the learning resources as they are, and then we move them into some kind of tool or some kind of adaptive world. Well, we pay again for that later. So that starts getting really expensive. the opportunity that kind of bubbled up out of all of this was, well, wait a minute, what if we used great OER, which doesn't have an initial cost? I mean, it's already been produced. It's someone else has assumed that cost, and it's available CC BY in the case of OpenStax. What if we took that material and we moved it into a new, more interesting, for us anyway, a more personalized, more adaptive space, and we paid for that piece, but then we kept it OER. So we made sure that it was still Creative Commons and that it was available to others, because we don't need it to be exclusive. That's not something we need. And that popped. That was something that really resonated with the provost and with our president. So while I don't have millions of dollars to announce, we have actually saved some money using OER. But where we're going, I think, is the really exciting part. So where we've been is, we have found that what works for us, what works for WGU, is OLI and resources that are designed for the self-learner. They're designed to go directly to the student, and they are great resources in the sense that they are available to everyone, but you get a different twist depending on what you come with. So everyone's coming in at a different level, and you're going to get served the pieces that you still need, and you'll accelerate past the pieces that you don't. That's where we're going, and so I'm excited to semi-announce that we are
Careful.
Yeah. That's okay.
Might have already gone.
Yeah, the tweet's probably already out there anyway. But so Western Governors is partnering with Lumen to create an adaptive course as a pilot. But the opportunity here goes beyond just one course. We really want to breathe new life into OER, and we're excited to be able to, in part, underwrite that. Because the investments that already were made in OER have taken us to a certain point. We want to make additional investments and bring those courses to a place where they really serve our students well. But we're happy to have that be open and have that be available to the broader community. The challenge really is that a lot of the adaptive tools today are not open source. So I'm just going to put it out there that the piece that we need is we need an open source adaptive platform. For today, we'll find the best tool and we'll make it work. But I would love to see, ideally, it would be that we invest in great OER, we create great adaptive OER, and then that can be used by anyone without a license or without any other cost. So that's the part that I'm most excited about. I want this to be I'd love for this to be interactive, and I'd love to just to get feedback on that idea, and I can talk a little bit more about why we're going down this route, why it works so well for us. But any questions at this point? Let me just pause. Yeah.
When you say adaptive, do you mean universal design type concepts, or?
Yeah. No. Thank you. I sort of blew past that. That's what happens when you don't have slides. So what I mean by adaptive is courseware that is designed in such a way that you are presented with a certain amount of content. You are then given small formative assessments, little mini knowledge checks, and then based on the results of those knowledge checks, there are decision trees that move you to different places. Sort of choose your own adventure, if you will, a little bit, for those of you who know those books. Yeah.
As you've looked at the adaptive options, or maybe when you talk to David, is there any kind of open framework discussion about the whole adaptive framework similar to LTI or as an addition to LTI, or is this a whole new thing where we need to build a set of standards that can make up a framework that could be supported in an open sense?
Right.
Where are we? Where did you discover we are? We're at the ground of actually trying to write that up.
Right. So LTI certainly can be part of it, and we have our own sort of custom-built tool to present to present content to students. It's sort of the LMS. We don't. Part of what I should explain is Western Governors doesn't have semesters, doesn't have terms. It's we have students starting every month, and then even within those monthly starts, students are accelerating at different paces and completing at different times, and so there isn't a class, there isn't a cohort, and we have models to support our students at different levels of staffing, you know, and with harder courses, there are more faculty sort of standing by, if you will, and we're looking at, you know, we have staffing models that have faculty working weekends, and it's not what you want to hear. I mean, we really are. It's what's best for the student, and actually, there are faculty who are happy to, you know, have the middle of the week off rather than. So we have a model that serves students at when they want to be served, and almost 24/7. And what we want is to apply the technology that allows the students to go as far as they can. It's actually not that different than a flipped classroom model, if that's something that's familiar to you, in the sense that all of the content and all of the interaction that we can put online, we do. And then whatever's left is where the faculty will help the students to become competent. And Western Governors doesn't have, there's not a set amount of time. Students will enroll for 6-month periods, but during that 6-month period, it's essentially all you can eat. So there are, we've established competencies and objectives below those competencies that really outline what competent means. And as soon as a student can demonstrate competency, either through a performance or we have a combination of performance assessments and so human scored and automatically scored assessments. That's our model, and so to get back to your question, the content piece, we have a system that can consume LTI, and so if there's a tool that can deliver adaptive content, we're set up to not have to go with just one provider. We actually at this point, we use over 60 providers for our content. We really don't build any content in-house. We're definitely a buy instead of build model, but we do oftentimes find ourselves having to assemble the sort of the chunks, and because the content that's available to buy isn't always what we need, so we rearrange the pieces a little bit, and then we look to OER where those opportunities exist. What I think this is just a way to expand our focus on OER, to find more, well, not even find, but to create more of the kind of resources that serve our students well. So taking the OER as sort of the raw material, and I think, I keep coming back to OpenStax just because it's such a great example. So more than likely, our first pilot will be sociology, and there's a fantastic OpenStax sociology resource, and there's lots of other great OER to supplement that. that's the raw material, but that's not where we start. We're gonna design we're gonna come up with our competencies and our objectives. We'll use the subject matter experts to create that blueprint, and then we'll go out to the OpenStax material and say, what is here that meets this objective? What's here that will help the student become competent in these areas? Yeah.
So Tom, I know that you have contracts with some publishers that where you don't pay them if the students don't use the content or take it, right?
Yeah.
So how's that working, and are you collecting any data from that that might translate into, I mean, I think that's one of the questions about open resources too, you know, is it what works and what doesn't?
Well, some of our largest providers are now on that pay-for-completion model. Some of them don't want us to talk about who they are. Well, I mean, it's a new model, and so what I can say is that we're moving more and more of our bigger providers to that model, and initially there were concerns over it. You know, I mean, the bottom line is, does this mean less money, right? We're actually giving a small premium to those who go to that model, because we want to incent not counting heads as they walk through the front door. We want to incent counting graduates, counting students who are successful walking out the door of that particular course. And so this puts that kind of incentive in place. How do you make more money in this model? You create a course that helps more students complete. You create a course that, and for us, because our assessments are completely separate, so you can't cheat, right? You can't just make the test easier. You have to create better content.
So have you learned anything about what is better content? I mean, any of the features that make content better?
I think right now it's still early, where a lot of these bigger providers have just signed on to it. And it sort of creates a domino effect, because people kind of look around the room and say, "Oh, you're on it? Okay, well maybe I'll think about," you know, and then it just sort of happens, and that's how I'm excited that we have as many people on those contracts as we do. We have basically now two general services contracts, and one is for pay per student, and the other is pay per completion. And there's about a 15 or 20% premium for pay per completion, and it's. But to answer that, I can't really right now say that this is really working a lot better. What I can say is we've set it up now so that the only way for providers to do better by us is to release content to improve their content so that students get it faster, and so that the presentation of the material helps them achieve. But in our world, that translates to more knowledge checks. It also, a lot of it is smaller bits of content, knowledge check, and then sort of help me understand as a student that I'm getting it or not getting it. Not all of it is adaptive, but that incentive, I think, is sort of pushing it towards, adaptive is one way to get more students completing. So I think that's gonna increase the number of adaptive courses that we have. So I know we're kind of wandering, and that's great, because I mean that's what I have to say today, is that at a high level, I came to OER thinking it was all about cost, and that pitch didn't work. And what's working for us is that we are able to move that same money into creating new more responsive kinds of courseware that that leverages what is and creates something new out of it. So that the idea that we can breathe new life into sort of flat OER is really exciting for us, and we're just looking for, as we move through this pilot, we're looking for ways to expand that, and it will be through multiple partners. I think Lumen's a great partner because their mission is to facilitate openness, and so we know that as we work with them, the content that gets built out of that, the content that gets improved, is going to be open content. So under CC BY.
There you go.
Creative Commons license. Yep, absolutely. I think I have about a minute, so yeah. Another question?
Comment and a question. So the comment is that I think that the IMS standards that are emerging around analytics will make it a lot easier to get good analytics from LTI back into an environment to combine with other data that you need to combine it with. So that's really important. But the other is, you know, one of the reasons that the good adaptive content is almost all commercials is really expensive to create, right?
Right.
And it's like this, the adaptive components with the content and also with the interactions, because as students use it, the system needs to be refined to adapt better, right?
Right.
So I guess a question for you, but for the room generally, is you know, how to crowdsource or whatever that kind of effort, not only around developing the adaptive materials, but also care and feeding over time.
Yeah, and for us, that's one of the things that works well for us, where we would support someone like Lumen on an ongoing basis, because I don't see adaptive as a one and done kind of situation. We're going to move this open content into a new place, and we know that our deadlines are aggressive. We know that it's not, you know, it's going to be partially adaptive by the time we need to launch. But the point is to put it in a place where we can start to make pieces adaptive, and then we will see where the weak spots are. If it's in a tool that understands a sort of an if-then tree, if this happens, if the student does this, then do that, then that can be, we can continue to improve and pull on the right levers to make that courseware more and more responsive to our students' needs. And so it's the contract with Lumen is not a one and done kind of a deal. Groups like Lumen can continue to support that, can continue to make it smarter, and we want to use standards to do that then can be, you know, that can be reused by other tools, other platforms. We may not use a traditional LMS, but we want our courseware to be useful in other spaces, and by using a common standard that we can make it something that can import easily into Canvas or Blackboard or anything else. So that's not our primary objective. We're going to make it work in our tool, but by making it open and by having an open license and by having by building it on common standards, LTI, and having the analytics behind it, we want to put OER in a place where it can sort of blossom into something that's more responsive for students. So we have all the raw materials. There's a ton of great open content out there. So let's not just let publishers be the only ones to get there. Let's get there. Let's leverage the great OER that exists and recognize that a lot of it is flat. So what's the next step? Let's make that adaptive and personalized, and so in 5 years, the choice is that in 5 years we'll either have publishers say we're the only game in town, and there's not even why would you even consider that flat OER? We have what you need, or we can be in a reality in 3 to 5 years where where the open content has moved and kept up with the times. So I want to go there.
Let's thank Tom for his great presentation.